What is your vision and efforts for e-mobility in India, and how soon we could see India moving from a country powered largely by vehicles with fossil fuels to predominantly run by on electric?
E-mobility is the future for us, which is highly safer, cleaner and eco-friendly mode of transport. India has surplus electricity and the government intends to have EV sales penetration of 30% for private cars, 70% for commercial vehicles, 40% for buses and 80% for two and three wheelers by 2030. In fact, we do not need any artificial push for the sale of electric vehicles in India. The economics is so good that due to the low per kilometer cost, consumers would naturally shift towards buying EVs. And the per kilometer cost of petrol based vehicle is rupees 10 per kilometer. For diesel it is rupees 7 per kilometer and for electricity it is only 1 rupee per kilometer. And there is large scale in-house production and demand for small battery operated electric vehicles like electric bikes, electric autos, electric rickshaws, e-carts, e-bicycles in the market. More and more OEMs are now offering domestic chargers along with the EVs, making it very easy to charge your EVs at your homes. Many world-class EV car makers are available in India, and now the battery capacity, driving range and charging mechanism of electric cars are significantly improving. Central and state governments are promoting and supporting the EV ecosystem in the country through favorable policies, incentives, subsidies, tax exemption, loan facilities on both supply and demand sides. All the regulations and incentives for manufacturing of electric vehicles are also in place. Battery operated vehicles have been exempted from payment of fees for issue of renewable registration certificates. And the government has also increased the subsidy by 50% of rupees 15,000 per kilowatt hour on electric two-wheelers to promote its sales. We have facilitated the sale and registration of two and three wheeler electric vehicles without batteries to reduce their upfront cost. We are supporting domestic manufacturing and encouraging localization of all EV parts via schemes like PLI. Our FAME 2 scheme with an outlay of rupees 10,000 crores supports electric two and three wheelers, electric buses and four wheelers with incentives for commercial registration. The efforts are going on the development of indigenous and low-cost EV battery technologies. Research is also in full swing for hydrogen fuel cell technology. The government has allocated rupees 18,100 crore for the manufacturing of advanced battery cells. We intended to shift public transport modes and logistic on electricity. The government has sanctioned rupees 18,000 crore to support expansion of public bus transport services, where procurement of electric buses seems to be the more economically viable choice. In the next 2 to 3 years, mass production of EVs will lead to the same capital cost in comparison to petrol and diesel versions and today due to economic of scale. I am confident that by the end of this decade, there will be a significant penetration of electric vehicles in the Indian transport sector, and I am confident about it.
So one of the challenges of for e-mobility is the charging infrastructure, and as you rightly said that even the electric vehicles companies have started giving the charges along with their vehicles. But companies say it's a chicken and egg situation. So how government is addressing this concern on a mass scale, and how private players could work with the government?
The government is promoting two important measures to manage the EV charging load. The first measure promotes the use of renewable energy to charge electric vehicles, which will reduce the load on transmission and distribution networks. The FAME 2 policy also links renewable energy sources with electric vehicle charging infrastructure. The second measure includes introducing the time of day charge for EV charging. And we have abundant solar energy. Solar generated electricity charges are very low and ensure a zero carbon emission cycle. The cost of generation of electricity from solar is less than rupees 2 per kilowatt hour. and we can fulfill the domestic EV charging through a rooftop solar system. Ministry of Power has now allowed sale of electricity as a service for charging of electric vehicles and has notified electric vehicle EV charging guidelines and specification, and this has allowed a way to bring massive investment into charging infrastructure. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs has made amendments to the model building bylaws and urban regional development plans, formulations and implementation guidelines, making provision for establishing electric vehicle charging infrastructure in order to facilitate availability of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. We have now made it compulsory to include EV charging stations at wayside amenities along highways. In this regard, Energy Efficiency Service Limited (EESL) has entered into a MOU with NHI in order to facilitate the establishment of EV charging stations in the next 5 years, and it is planned to develop wayside amenities at 600 locations, all of which having the necessary EV charging infrastructure. The government has permitted to set up EV charging points across 69,000 petrol stations in the country. Department of Heavy Industries has already awarded the work of establishment of EV charging stations for 16 national highways and expressways, and feasibility studies going on to identify more such locations along the highways. The private players need to explore alternatives such as battery swapping service, EVs on the rent and lease service, and we can also develop alternative charging options through utilizing the existing electrification infrastructures at metros, railways, and solar parks. Concepts such as roaming are still not evolved in India that could provide flexibility and interoperability in charging across multiple locations. It is ultimately a game of economics of scale. EVs will be viable due to its low cost economics and similarity. The charging station also would be equally viable and effective due to the same economics.
So, what are the government's plan to become Atmanirbhar in electric batteries? Do you see India could become an export hub in the coming years?
One of the major barriers for switching to EVs is cost. In that, cost of lithium-ion batteries only accounts for 50% of cost of EVs. Although there have been significant reduction in battery prices over the last few years, still EVs are not able to achieve cost parity with their equivalent IC engine vehicles. The main focus to make EVs more affordable is the life cycle cost of lithium as an element per kilowatt hour. The current pricing of lithium is in the range of $140 to $150 per kilowatt hour. The moment this cost comes down in the range of $100, EVs will be as competitive as petrol and diesel engine vehicles. Our research and academic institution ISRO, DRDO, IITs are working hard for the development of indigenous and low-cost battery technologies for electric vehicles, and we can generate 81% value of lithium-ion battery in India. Further, I am personally pushing for research on alternative battery chemistries such as sodium-ion, zinc-ion, aluminum-ion batteries. Low-cost raw material can be made available from scrapping of old vehicles. Metals like aluminum, iron, and lithium can also be extracted. Rare earth metals such as neodymium is also extracted, which is used as NDFE magnet in EVs. Simultaneously, we are aggressively pursuing research on green hydrogen as a transport fuel. The government has allocated rupees 18,100 crore for the manufacturing of advanced battery cells, and recently the government has announced PLI scheme of rupees 26,000 crore for auto industry to adopt battery operated and hydrogen fuel cell EV technologies, and our current efforts in research and development, boosting of local manufacturing capabilities for battery and EV components would make up Atmanirbhar in the EV space, and I am confident that India will soon attain a leading and prominent role in the global EV market and supply chain.
Great. Lastly, is the government encouraging the applications of plastics and advanced composites in automotive vehicle, which would make the vehicle more energy efficient through lightweight engineering? together with providing more durability and design flexibility at low cost?
Our focus is to make Indian vehicles at par with international standards in terms of crash safety, body designs, and permissible emission norms. The government is firm on adhering to the corporate average fuel economy CAFE regulations, where automakers are required to keep average CO2 emissions less than 130 grams per kilometer till 2022 and below 113 grams per kilometer thereafter. To achieve the desired emission target as per CAFE regulations, OEMs have to increase use of plastic and advanced composites in automotive vehicles, which would help to make vehicle lighter and fuel efficient. We are also committed for use of ethanol as a fuel for vehicles and insisting automakers to manufacture vehicles with flex fuel engine technology. This technology is already available in Brazil, Canada, and USA. And according to a recent study in Brazil, hybrid flex engine using 100% ethanol emits 77% less greenhouse gas emission as compared to Euro 6 compliant IC engines. And by appropriate modification in IC engine materials, ethanol can be used as a blended fuel, and this will help to automakers to better comply to the CAFE norms. Automakers have to ensure maximum recovery of plastic and other composite materials on scrapping of vehicles, and materials used should be replaceable or repairable at affordable cost for the consumer. Vehicle designer and manufacturer need to use eco-friendly plastic polymer, ABS sheets, and fire retardant materials in which for passenger safety. Automakers have to strictly comply with the notified automotive industrial standards, AIS, bus body and truck body codes. Ministry has already made a provision in Motor Vehicle Amendment Act about recall of vehicles and vehicle components in case of any defect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.